Thank you for listening to WS Radio. Improve your business and your life with useful information from experts and thought leaders. WS Radio is radio with ROI.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McCullough.
Don't even want to wait for him to get it out of his mouth. Thank you very much, Dick Warren. I'm delighted to be back in the chair after a little bit of a foray to, I went to France. I went to Paris, France. That's where I went. And standing instead, in my good stead, which is a phrase you don't hear that often anymore.
I don't even know what it means.
Was the great and powerful Michelle Aiken and the lovely and delightful Clarice Connolly. How did it go with the fabulous Jen Sincero?
Yes, very Italian. It was amazing. It was such a good episode. Even Amber McHugh before that was phenomenal. But Jen is my idol. So
right. Did you get all tongue-tied?
I did. I definitely dorked out for a good majority of the show, but I got some really powerful questions in there. She left us with some really good tidbits and information to kind of wrap your mind around. And
did she declare you or any of our listeners a badass?
No. Oh, that would have been really good.
Gonna have to have her back. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Next
thank you
Full
very
hour.
much for doing that, and an extraordinary show. So, if you're listening live, you want to also check out the archives and get Jen Sincero, author of "You Are a Badass" and "You Are a Badass at Making Money." That was last week. This week, an extraordinary show. I want to catch up with you because I want to share and have you share, but mostly we got to get to work because these are extraordinary guests and we're delighted to have them. What do we need people to know? I was in Paris, France. Everything's fine. I was there. There was a little incident, but there were incidences here. There are incidences all over. Everything fine. Extraordinary trip. Everything went perfectly. Do you ever have that on a vacation where everything goes perfectly?
Yes. Yeah. It's been a while, but yes.
The biggest drama was we had to wait 20 minutes for a table at one of our favorite restaurants in Paris. So if that's your life, you got no complaints, right? Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. What about you? Anything you want to share with the class about your life?
I'm working on the good old mother wound. And thanks to coaching, I've definitely made some strides, and we've really created a different relationship. And so
you mean in a relationship with your
my
actual mother? Okay.
Yeah.
A mother wound isn't something.
No, it's a thing.
Okay.
It's hard to
It's not a physical.
It's a
thing.
whole nother episode.
I'm a
yes.
dude. Just remember.
Oh, valid.
A guy. Yeah.
Super valid. But yeah, me and my mom. Yeah, I became unattached to results and expectations, and we've actually created this amazing relationship, and I'm really looking forward to our second guest and having that kind of conversation about leading the horse to the water and her finally taking a drink. And
Author,
that's great.
author of one of our favorite books, Undefended Love, and her newest book, Hidden Blessings. So I guess you found some hidden blessings and some undefended love. Nice job.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share? That would be, by the way, that's the voice and the face, if you're on video, of Clarice Connolly. She is a coach here in the great state of California. Who do you work with, and how do we find you?
I work with empowering women who are frustrated with how life's going, with ultimately feeling broken and low on their totem pole of priorities, and really just kind of almost like giving up on themselves. So I work with them to learn to love themselves, learn to take action towards the dreams and desires that they have always imagined, and just really standing standing beside them along the way to co-create a new life.
Nice. And I like your glasses. And are you also willing to work with women who are empowered but just haven't quite gotten there yet?
Yeah, exactly. Just bridging the gap from ultimately where women are to where they want to be, and just getting them through those obstacles.
Well, when I was single, I disappointed a lot of women, so I could send those to you, those people that I know as referrals.
Always
All right.
open.
How do we get a hold of you?
Empoweringwomen.coach.
Empoweringwomen.coach. Nice. All right, that would be Clarice Connolly. My name is Christopher McAuliffe. I'm a master certified coach for like 20-some years. And this is a coaching show. Each and every week we bring you people who are doing something out on the cutting edge of coaches, some icons in coaching, people who are doing something wacky, a little bit of everything. And today is no exception. We do have some shout-outs first to our longtime sponsors of this program and our media partner. If you don't mind, I'll start with the sponsor, and you can do the media partners. Deal?
Yes.
All right. The sponsor of this show, since its inception over 15 years ago, is Accomplishment Coaching. And listen, if you're like me, well, God help you, but if you are like me, you appreciate things at the highest level. When I went to go get trained as a coach, when I decided to become a coach, I wanted the finest coach training in the world. And I went looking for the Harvard, the Yale, the Stanford, the Oxford of coaching, and I couldn't find it. And then, years later, Accomplishment Coaching came into being. And Accomplishment Coaching is exactly that. From the beginning, it's designed to be the world's finest coach training program. It's one program. It's not a series of modules. It's not a sales pitch from this thing to that thing. It's one program. It's a year long. And here's my favorite thing, and I think your favorite thing about it, is you can actually go and observe the coach's training program in progress, right? So it's not like a black box, like you have to put down a ton of money and then find out whether it's Trump University or not. First of all, it's not. It's legit. And second of all, you can go and test drive the thing. You can go and check it out and observe it. There's a little workshop you can do for 4 hours but the observation is free. There's lots of opportunities. So check it out, accomplishmentcoaching.com. And here are the cities. Let's see if we can remember. San Diego, California, Seattle, Washington, Victoria,
I almost said
BC.
Vancouver, too.
Yeah, right. It's right next to Vancouver. Chicago, Illinois, and then what about on the East Coast?
New York City
Yeah.
and our capital, Washington, D.C.
Where they could use some leadership development, is all I'm saying. Okay, so Accomplishment Coaching, check them out, the world's finest coach training program. And what about our media partnership?
The ICF, so the International Coach Federation, provides us the opportunity to support the folks involved in the association, and it's also actually known as ICF, so that's probably how you'll hear us refer to it. ICF is the leading global organization dedicated to advancing the coaching profession by setting high standards, providing independent certification, and building a worldwide network of trained coaching professionals. So the ICF is actually the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches. So join and also get all the benefits. It's committed to connecting professional coaches with the tools and resources they need to succeed in their careers.
And they have a ton of resources on that site. Go to coachfederation.org and check it out. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Sign her up.
and we have an ICF representative every third Thursday of the month. So they give us a ton of news and information
and learning,
too.
yeah. And there's new PCC markers coming out, and there's all sorts of happenings, including the first global ICF conference in like 5 years. So you want to check that out. It's ICF Converge. Going to be in, I think, August in Washington, D.C., which is a swamp in August. But you should go anyway because it's indoors, and it's extraordinary. Anyway, you can find out more by going to coachfederation.org or follow ICF on Twitter at
ICFHQ.
At ICFHQ. At ICFHQ. All right. Let's get right to it. Molly Gordon. Man, to know Molly Gordon is to love her. Speaking of ICF, she's a founding member and former board president of the International Coach Federation, Washington State. She's been chair of the ICF's Chapter Leadership Committee and an assessor in the ICF's credentialing program. So important. She's a certified mentor coach and an instructor in the Professional Coaching Certificate Program at the University of Miami in Coral Gables. They live in Washington. She and her family live in Washington State. She's worked with organizations such as, NASA. I mean,
No
if you
big deal.
like, right? Yeah.
No big deal.
People you've heard of, as well as several nonprofits. We're delighted to welcome back to our microphone Master Certified Coach Molly Gordon. Hello.
Hello.
What news from Washington State today, Ms. Gordon?
Well, the apple tree is blooming. That makes me smile.
That's important.
springtime in Suquamish.
It's took me 7 years to learn to say that. All right. Well, here's one of the things that you and I have in common is that we've been around for a while. We got the MCC back in the day, and you've been coaching since 1996.
Yeah.
I want to give our listeners, like young Clarice here, some perspective. What have you seen, and what's changed in not only coaching, but maybe in the work that you do and the work that you see being done in the world of coaching?
Yeah. You know, the phrase that comes to mind is the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I think that's true in really good ways and maybe in some ways that our profession could take a look at. What has stayed the same is that the longer I coach, the more meaningful some of the simplest, most basic principles that I learned in the beginning have become. For example, that all clients are whole, creative, and resourceful. I think that for a long time I saw that as a useful framework, a really good attitude to have, a nice place to come from. And now I see it as like, holy cow, that's true. And I do a lot of supervision and mentoring, and many, many times when coach clients come to me and they're stuck in coaching, it's because they've forgotten that the client actually has what it takes, and they've started to worry about their clients.
Oh, right. And we all think, oh, if it's that old hammer and nail thing, right? Like if I could just find the problem, I could help them solve it, instead of relating to our clients as their own resource.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Although, again, relating to my dating life, many years ago, I knew some people that weren't whole and complete, but that's a different story. So, okay, so getting...
Which might explain why they were dating you.
Oh, nice.
See what I'm saying?
Air five. Air five from here.
She brings
Molly
joy.
Gordon, you are my favorite now. This is amazing.
Joy and love wherever she goes.
Help myself.
Nice. But truly, I don't want to miss your point with our humor, that relating to the client, that the best thing we can do is sort of get out of the way as coaches. But that's what stayed the same. You mentioned some things that have changed. Was there another point you wanted to make?
Yes. I have, what's changed for me is I have more appreciation every year for some of the simple structures. So in a way, this is something that stayed the same. It's not like new information or a new model. But I value structures that we teach in coach training in the ICF model more than ever. For example, the coaching agreement. Getting a really good, complete, rock-solid coaching agreement just looks to me like such a valuable piece of the coaching session. Yeah. And I used to be willing to have pretty wandery sessions. I'm still willing to have wandery sessions, but I like to know where we think we're going to end up.
Right. The jibber-jabber session is never powerful unless you know that we're headed somewhere with this jibber-jabber.
Right. You know, let's set a clear intention and desire. Even if we can't nail it down, let's get in the neighborhood of what we're nailing down, and then let's go get lost in the forest together. Let's not just walk into the forest and get lost.
Absolutely.
So that's changed for me. In the beginning, I used to see the ICF competencies as kind of I was not impressed.
Suggestions?
I was not impressed.
Guidelines for lesser coaches? Yeah.
Exactly. Guidelines for lesser coaches, inadequate codifications of something that may or may not be happening or relevant. But as I began to train as an assessor and have conversations with other master certified coaches using those competencies as the benchmarks, the guidelines, the parameters for evaluating coaching sessions, they started to unfold for me and they blew my mind. So I have a great deal of appreciation for the competencies. I'm sure that language is a limited thing, so I don't doubt that they could be improved. But even as written, they repay careful and thoughtful reflection.
Beautifully said. Yeah, what was I going to say about that? Well, I've lost it. This is what happens when I go on vacation. I know you have a question.
Yeah, you just cut me off. So what I'm curious about is, what do you wish more people, including like new up and coming coaches, or even maybe coaches who've been around, or people who don't even understand what coaching is, new? Like, what do you wish that they would know about coaching?
Well, it connects to that first thing we were talking about of clients being whole, competent, or creative and resourceful. I wish that coaches and people coming to coaches knew that our work is about pointing clients toward something that's built in, something that they're designed to do. It looks to me like human beings are perfect learning critters. You take a baby, and that baby will learn to move and communicate. Even if the child is physically impaired, it will develop a form of locomotion and communication. And it doesn't need help. It doesn't need bullet points, tools, and techniques. It needs a safe space, time, and love. And all human beings, I think, have an underrated capacity to learn and grow in exactly the way that will work best for them. I keep looking out at this apple tree next to me. It would be nonsense to think that the apple tree was making a mistake. And I would just like to see greater and greater appreciation of this phenomenal intelligence that resides in human beings, and a greater commitment to pointing people toward it as opposed to improving people.
Look at you giving us a beautiful spiritual message.
I loved it.
Right?
I think that what comes up for me in what you're saying, I think, to like put a little bow on it, really, it's coaching. What one of my mentors shared with me is like, it's coaching a person's greatness instead of relating to them as everyone else does, right? Like everyone relates to each other as their broken down piece that they portray, and almost the power of, empowering them through relating to them as their greatness, as not so many people do. It really creates this inspired learning being.
Right. And with a really loose, open and curious notion of what greatness means, because it can look really different for different people.
One of the things that we're fighting over in the background here is you and I separately have spent large parts of the last 20 years training and mentoring other coaches. And just between us, I got to tell you, I was completely unprepared for how much of my life would be spent listening to bad coaching with that career.
No kidding.
Right? I was like, oh my gosh, another one? Okay, all right. Here's what's missing. Here's how that could be improved. Let's mine your brilliance and all of those hours of experience of yours. As a coach, mentor, as a trainer, what are the areas, if you could wave your magic wand and give all coaches something, what are the blind spots that you would have people address immediately throughout the coaching universe?
Get an agreement and begin partnering from the very beginning. And partnering has to do with both giving the client their voice, giving the client a bigger role in the session, and not just checking in to see if the client agrees with the coach.
Nice.
And not just asking, where do you want to go now? I mean, I think the coach brings something important to the table. I've been pointing students these days toward the difference between asking questions and partnering to solve problems, which is what it looks to me like most beginning coaches are aiming, and asking questions and partnering with clients to access the client's creativity, to access the client's innovation, to explore the client's values that there's a fundamental difference between coaching the capacity of the client to go where the client wants to go and even to dream up a new place to go, or coaching the client to solve a map problem.
It's really beautiful. Let's get down and dirty. What's the one phrase or notion that you would remove immediately from all coaches' minds?
Where do you want to start?
Okay.
It's a well-intentioned partnering question that just, it leaves the poor client flat because they're going, well, geez, if I
Here?
knew,
Right.
I wouldn't be here.
In Venice, Paris. Yeah. Let's play this round robin. Are you willing,
Okay.
Clarice? Okay. So the phrase that I would eliminate forever from coaches is, what would that look like? How about you?
Oh. Ooh, I don't know. Ask her first.
Okay, I'll do one for you.
Okay.
Say more about that.
I hate that one.
Right. Molly, how about you? You want to play?
You know, I'm reluctant only because I think it's less the phrasing than it is the come from.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh, the
You're
tone.
right.
No.
The tone gets me.
Or
every
the
time.
Yeah.
like I don't have anything else to say, so I'm going to say this automatically, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's this really about?
Exactly. Because there are times when, say more or and or what else are really useful.
Right. Fair enough.
Are they coming from curiosity? Are they coming because you don't know what else to say?
Right.
Occasionally I'll ask it because I don't know what else to say, to be perfectly honest. Or are they coming out of a model that is standing between the coach and the client?
I want to
that's
have
a
all
good point.
coaches, when they don't know what to say, actually look at their client and say, I don't know what to say right now.
Exactly.
I think that authenticity would be so delightful.
That does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, this is the other thing that occurs to me that I would really love for coaches and other people to know is that there is so much to be gained by not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Wait a minute. Let's not get in a big hurry for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to that place. And for coaches, that can look like asking a question that you don't know the answer to, that you don't know that the client can answer, you don't know where it fits. So, trusting those random questions that sometimes arise, and hanging out in the unknown.
Mm-hmm. So I'm actually really curious about this. You've begun your coaching on a gift economy model.
Yeah.
What's that about, and how does that work?
This is so weird. I coached for 18, 19 years and was coaching, around the top of what you get as a life and small business coach. And a few years ago, I found myself not wanting to charge the kinds of fees I was charging. And I thought, wait a minute, what's up with that? Don't you trust your value? I mean, I thought of all the things, all the conversations that most coaches and other professionals have about value pricing, and clients get what they pay for, and valuing yourself, and yada, 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 yada. And I was going around and around in circles. And finally, in a coach mentoring course, a very young and very good coach asked me a question that basically went like, what's wrong with doing what you want? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I've been around the block with my value. I've been around the block with taking care of myself and meeting my needs. I don't actually have issues about money and abundance. I just didn't want to put high price tags on my work anymore. So I stopped. And it took me a couple of years to find my way, and I'm actually still finding my way. And the closest model that seems to work is what's, known as the gift economy. And the way I think of it is that the work I do is a contribution, an energy I'm putting into the web that connects all of us and all of life. And the things I need come out of that web. Every month I send my clients, in most areas, not all areas, but I send most of my clients an invoice, and I let them define the value that they received from the work I put into the web. And then I invite them to decide how they want to return that value to the web. And it could be by sending me money, flowers, or work. It could be by volunteering at a soup kitchen in their neighborhood. There are any number of ways that they can return the value to the web. But at this point in my life, it's more important to me to really presence the ways in which we are all connected and to take my work out of the transactional financial economy. And it's not a position, it's not a philosophy, it's not something I think anybody else should do, but it's really working for me.
It's really, really interesting, and I'm sorry that our time has flown by. I want to let people know that if they want to find out more about your extraordinary work, people should go to Shaboom Inc. That's ShaboomInc.com, and find out more about the work, the delight, the joy that the great Molly Gordon brings. And then I also want to give you an opportunity for a parting thought or a parting shot today. We've got about a minute and a half left in this segment, and I want to give it all to you. What would you have 20 or 30,000 coaches know today?
Oh, you know, what I'd love 20 or 30,000 coaches to know is that even if you're doing badly, you're doing something that is phenomenally valuable, that there are people in the world that feel better when they have a lamppost to lean on or a tree to talk to. And you're more than a lamppost, and you're more than a tree. And so while we've said some things about beginning coaches and bad coaching, what I'd really like you to take to heart is that your willingness to listen and to serve makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. It's everything.
That's so beautiful. And as you are uplifting and brilliant and a contribution, I want to also let people know that they can find you using that same Shaboom on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Google Plus on Molly Gordon. It's just great to be with you. Thank you so much. May we follow up with you in a little while about this gift economy model and see how it's going?
That would be great, because who knows?
Right. You'll be awash in like chicken eggs and paintings, amateur paintings and things that people have given you. But I'm really interested. I recently spoke to a coach who does the same sort of thing and is very, very well respected, but I just couldn't wrap my hand around it. So I appreciate that you're being a pioneer yet again.
Thank you so much, both of you.
All right. Well, that's the great Molly Gordon. When we come back, an extraordinary conversation with Jett Psaris about undefended love and the hidden blessings, midlife crisis as a spiritual awakening. You're listening to The Coaching Show right here on WSRadio.com.
Hi, Mary. Our growth has me looking for new furniture, but I can't find the right vendor. Can you help?
For sure.
Do you know a company that will give me a great value?
For sure.
Do you know a company that provides great selection?
For sure.
Do you know a company that is professional and responsive?
For sure, it's Shore. Shore Office Warehouse has been providing great value, service, and selection for over 40 years. It's Shore, for sure. ShoreOfficeWarehouse.com.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Gotham Books presents Marriage Rules by Harriet Lerner. The book Martha Beck calls required reading for anyone hoping to interact successfully with any other human, not just for those in romantic relationships. Get your copy wherever books and ebooks are sold, and visit harrietlerner.com to learn how to change your marriage today.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McCullough.
Thank you very much. In the studio today with the great and powerful Clarice Connolly, who is a coach here in the San Diego area and works with empowering women. In fact, what's your website again?
EmpoweringWomen.coach.
Yeah, that all works. I like that. Mm-hmm. We're both so excited to have our next guest on, and a returning champion for us. Listen, if you are a human being and you don't have a copy of Jett Psaris' and Marlena Lyons' Undefended Love, that book's title again, Undefended Love, you need to go out immediately and purchase it, borrow it, take it out from the library, do what you need to do to get that book and read it, because it will rock your world and shift all your relationships. And we've been delighted to have Jett on before and talk to her about this truly incredible seminal work. But now she's got a new book and a new area of endeavor. Jett is a PhD and an author and teaches others how to use intimate relationships and the midlife journey as a catalyst for psycho and spiritual transformation. I don't mean psycho, I mean psychological. She's been teaching workshops, she's an author, and her practice, as we know, is full and bursting at the seams. It's a delight to welcome back to our microphones Jett Psaris. Hello.
Thank you. Hi, Christopher. Hi, Clarice.
Hi.
It's wonderful to talk to you both.
Well,
Yes.
I promise it's our pleasure. Let's talk about the latest book, Hidden Blessings, Midlife Crisis as a Spiritual Awakening. I'm clear that as a person who's midlife, one of the only useful books I've read on this topic is from David White, the poet, who wrote a bit on midlife and, in his poetic style. What was the message? What is it that you want to get out to people about midlife?
Well, there's a lot of information about midlife that it's an entirely new terrain, if you can think about it like a new land mass that is just forming in the collective based on the extended longevity rates now. So midlife is something that is entirely new. And I just want to say I also like David White's work. I just want to mention that as well. I've really appreciated what he's brought to the conversation. But, our great-grandparents could have expected to live maybe to 47 years old. And now, three generations later, life expectancy is closer to 80. So we have this 33-year asset that our great-grandparents didn't have. Mm-hmm. And so we're just kind of learning, what is this asset about? And someone said that those 33 years, they're not tacked at the end. 15 of those years have been stuffed in the middle. And that's my experience as well. I think midlife is a completely new phenomenon, and it is new in terms of who we are becoming as psychologically mature beings, emotionally mature beings, conscious beings. And so it's very exciting. It's almost like traveling into outer space, only we're doing it here. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a thrilling undertaking. It's fresh and it's new, and it has a lot of bearing on all of our lives as the baby boomers have been pouring in and out of the passage, discovering what it's about really. And Gen X is coming into the passage. And so we're forming an entirely new part of human consciousness and human reality.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a great and broad view of that. I love the notion that in the middle. It also, from a selfish point of view, it justifies my extending my adolescence through my 40s. But the piece that I love is, you're right. Like, we've got this sort of. It's not uncommon for people of at least my generation, if I may include you in my generation, to have 2, 3, 4 careers. And then people at Clarice's stage of life are coming up, and a career is no longer a thing, right? It's like, what are we going to do until we decide to do the next
Something
thing,
else.
right?
Yeah. Right.
What's is this mostly about your own spiritual awakening during midlife, or is it that you've worked with enough people that you sort of can contribute this and be a catalyst or a synergist to create that?
Well, I had noticed for many years people going through some kind of phenomenon, which I really didn't appreciate what that was until I landed there myself. And I certainly did not appreciate landing there, let me be perfectly clear. But I had noticed the phenomenon and didn't know what to make of it. And then when I landed there myself, it is such a dramatic shift in consciousness that I floundered for many years, and writing has been my way of just really getting a grip and staying conscious and trying to follow the thread. And so I clung to writing to try to figure out what was happening to me. And my midlife was on the dramatic side. It was very disturbing, very disquieting. It was I was upended in many ways, and there are more dramatic versions and there are less dramatic versions. But over time, I began to, Christopher, you might remember these in the 90s. These dotograms or austerograms where you stare at the dots and and you maybe see a shark coming out of the picture. And in the 90s, people were separated into camps of who could see the shark and who couldn't. And I was one of the ones who could not see the shark. But I kept peering into this myriad of dots, looking for the patterns. And over time, I began to feel, sense, identify the patterns. And I've been looking at these patterns very closely, pretty much around the clock for 17 years. So I have finally found the heartbeat underneath the noise of the dots, and that's what Hidden Blessings is about. It's about what that heartbeat is, and I want to encourage people to find the heartbeat, the deeper narrative below the noise. And I'm in my 60s, full disclaimer here, and
which, if anyone who sees your photo knows that that's a lie, but okay.
Well, I really love that photographer in some ways. He brings out my inside rather than parts of my outside.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness.
But I love both. I mean, I've come to love, all kidding aside, I love the aging process, and I'm not saying that it's not without its rigors and challenges, but I'm just very deeply grateful to be here. Yay. I have many clients who don't make it to 50, and I just have grown to very much appreciate each day.
And that's not because they're your clients. Let's be clear.
My clients live to 50.
I hope not.
So I'm over here just thinking about my mom the whole time. I've moved some huge mountains between my relationship with my mom, and we've really grown a lot closer. And it's kind of funny because I actually didn't even think about the concept midlife crisis. She just turned 60 last year and decided that she wanted a career change. So she quit her job and then kind of fell into this struggle with her confidence. And so
depression,
the depression of not having a job and what am I worth and all of that. And so this book really speaks to me like it's in the mail on its way to mom. What would you say is the time frame that people actually have a midlife crisis, or when they could start to look out for like this is what's actually happening?
Well, for women, it's much more clear than it is for men. I think because of the vital role that menopause plays in women's lives. Menopause is really signaling to women that the entire enterprise of having children, whether they went after that path or not, is over. And it signals something pretty powerful to the woman's psyche. And then it also is very destabilizing. We go from a very regular, rhythmic experience of our bodies to that rhythm being lost on one level. Now, so therefore, for women in my base at least, between 45 and 65 is the window, and it's pretty clear. For men, it's less clear. I do have men in my practice who enter midlife earlier at 40, but the preponderance of men enter later, 50 to 55. And I'm working with quite a few men in their 70s who are just starting the process. I think that it is important or helpful to either have some kind of physical impact or strong emotional and psychological impact to bring men into this process. And men are more likely to delay midlife and reestablish themselves in what I call their first adult life and following their first adult life concerns than women are. And so for men, the range, may be more like 50 to 75 even.
It might be, it might just be me justifying something, but one of the things I'm noticing, both in people in my life and my clients, seems to be that there's another crisis happening, and I guess we can't call it midlife, but something in the 25-ish range. Is that something that either of you are noticing or no?
Yeah, no, well, actually, there are a number of major life passages, and 27 to 31 is one of them, and that's it's an astrologically noted passage where it's called the first Saturn return. You may have heard of this. It's something abrupt occurs. And it does make an identity shift. And so it could be just a move from the East Coast to the West Coast. It could be a loss of a relationship. Clarice, did that ring a bell?
I have all of those things. I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. I ended a relationship. I found my identity.
You found your first adult psychological identity. So to be clear, it's an abrupt movement that has an equally abrupt response, and the response in some way solidifies our identity, our first adult life identity. We become conscious of it. Then between 38 and 42, we go through another passage, which I call the adjustment passage. And in that passage, what happens is we consciously turn the dials around what we value, what we care about, and we consciously bring our lives into alignment. And so those two are often confused with midlife, which is why you hear people say, I had my midlife crisis at 30. Well, probably not. But you did have a crisis of identity, as Clarice is saying, at 30. But not midlife. Midlife is entirely different. And it really is much more comprehensive. The transformation is comprehensive, whereas these other two, the first one at the late 20s, early 30s, is an abrupt response, and it comes from a sense of self that is based on the personality. At midlife, we are forfeiting that psychological identity, and we are shifting over to a much more profound and deep experience of self, which I broadly call a soul-based identity.
I also want to point to something that I'm experiencing. There's something around this age where my power in the world is different.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, it used to be a very, Alison Armstrong in her work talks about like the difference between a knight, a prince, and a king, right? For me, you know, there was a time when I could conquer, you know, sexual and romantic partners. I could conquer things in business, and I could, you know, go stake my claim and, you know, purchase a plot of land, and, you know, like that was who I was. And now a lot of those what seemed like power to be, you know, virile and strong and powerful and conquer people, you know, are either unusable because of my marriage, or you know, or are it's like it's not what people come to me for anymore, right? People don't come to me to conquer something. They come to me and find out what's it like to conquer something, right? Tell me about your experience when you used to conquer stuff. Oh, is that typical, and is there a gender difference there? In other words, do women experience a different sort of loss of power than men?
Well, there are broad differences, certainly because our conditioning is so different. But I love the way you're talking about this. If we go back to the first adult life, the goal of that is to fulfill the social contract. So that includes things like buying a plot of land, building a family, marrying, contributing to communities, and building a 401k, frankly, being able to pay our bills, and stopping at stop signs. Well, that's the social contract. We were trained as children to fulfill that, and our psychological identity that I was talking about earlier is all geared toward that. So someone can come to us in our older years who have been through that passage, and they can say, what's it like to conquer this mountain, to accomplish that, to publish a book, to have a practice. And we can share that kind of, that would be as our sharing our experience, perhaps offering sage advice. But at midlife, so you've kind of crossed over and become this person who has been through all of those stages. But at midlife, the enterprise shifts dramatically, and you're talking about the results of that dramatic shift. Inside that shift, we are giving up that entire social contract. It's not that we won't continue to pay our bills and stop at stop signs, but we no longer need to be seen as the one who knows. We no longer need to be seen as the one who succeeds. We don't have the same needs to support and prop up that psychological identity, probably because midlife has taken us through so many ups and downs that we begin to incorporate all of life into our landscape. You know, I often talk about, I work with quite a number of people who've had multiple diagnoses of cancer, and the first time they go through it, they freak out, understandably so. And they just, you know, they're afraid their lives have ended or going to end, and they run to the nearest doctor or nearest medical team, follow whatever advice is given to them, and try to get through it. The second diagnosis, they think about the advice and the protocol, they ask more questions, they seek other advice, and they have a little bit more personal presence to meet the challenge. The third diagnosis, that increases even more. And by the fourth diagnosis, it's just part of the landscape. And so they have this ability to be much larger than that single experience. And I think that that's really what the passage of midlife is about. It's about enlarging ourselves so much so that we don't have a preference for one experience over another. It's just seen as one undulating sine wave called life. And we enjoy the sunshine this morning. We appreciate the rain this afternoon. We are grateful for the darkness to sleep. And there's just there's a lot more space around us. And we can sit with people, as you're saying, Christopher, of all ages, preceding ages. And we can sit with them and we know something about what they're going through, and we can appreciate that and give them living proof that they can survive it.
Yeah,
because we're there.
That's big too. What would you say? So I love like having your point of view given to me. That kind of opens this door of like, oh, people who are going through midlife crisis aren't out of my realm. Like if you were going to give advice to a coach, like what would you need, or some skills that would be useful to support clients in their midlife?
Yeah, there are basically everything changes in the midlife segment. And so Carl Jung's famous for saying that the instructions for the afternoon of life must not be the same as the morning of life. He's talking about that first adult life and the second adult life. And so one of the things about midlife that's very important is actually failing. And that's not a popular thing to say, but our identity must fail. The husk of us must fail for the seed to be born. And so a coach needs to know that and not try to get that person to have a good experience, so that the only part of them that can meet that distress, that deeper self, rises up, shows up. So the coach is no longer giving advice. The coach is witnessing, companioning, loving, caring for, being the beacon of hope in an otherwise sometimes very dreary landscape. So the coach has to have a lot of courage to watch someone go through what can feel to them sometimes like their demise, and not lose faith in life, not lose faith in the process, not lose faith in their client and their client's ability to make it through. The client's birthright, it's the birthright of a caterpillar to become a butterfly. So there are specific tools. I don't know how much time we have.
We've got
for
about
those.
3 minutes left.
Okay, yeah, probably not enough to talk about too many specifics. I think failure is really important. Feeling more rather than less is very important. And visioning it is not a time to vision, because when we employ visioning techniques with our clients in midlife, they are visioning from a caterpillar's consciousness. They will only produce twigs. They will not produce a field within which the being will soar. So they can only reproduce from what they are living in. And then I guess
really good.
The last one I'll just mention is we don't reframe in midlife. You know, it's a very important skill for coaches and all guides to reframe what's happening. Midlife, we don't reframe, we allow ourselves to be reframed. When we have a stroke, we don't reframe the stroke. We allow the stroke to reframe us into a being for whom that stroke is an unfolding. And that is, these are all shifts on the surfboard that take us in an entirely different direction with our clients.
Any one of those is so brilliant, and I'm so grateful that you're articulating them so beautifully for us. As you've heard, our time has flown by. We've got about just over a minute left, and I want to give it all to you. I noticed that I want to sort of comment on everything that you've said.
I know,
but
me
think,
too. I'm like, oh.
The most valuable thing for our listeners is probably to turn that time over to you. If you could give our listeners another gift before you leave, what would you have us 20 or 30,000 coaches know or take on today?
I think I actually woke up at 2 a.m. thinking about a question like that.
Wow.
And I think you spoke to this earlier, Christopher. The experience after midlife is a little, before and after is like this. If you take a teaspoon of salt and you put it in a cup of water, it tastes one way. If you take that teaspoon and you put it in a lake, the change in taste is almost imperceptible. We are helping our clients become a lake.
No.
we're moving from a cup to a lake. And that's the most important thing, I think, to hold in our consciousness. So that all of life is just the beautiful, nourishing experience of that lake, and those little teaspoons of salt and grains of sand that irritate us, they go away.
Yes.
So beautiful. Well, thank you. The website is Jett Psaris. That's JettPsaris. That's JettPsaris. There are upcoming workshops, including one starting May 25th, about hidden blessings, midlife crisis as a spiritual awakening, and the books you must own are Undefended Love and Hidden Blessings, Midlife Crisis as a Spiritual Awakening. Thank you, my dear listener, for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Your search for the right office furniture will be done when you walk into Shore for sure. In our 46,000 square foot warehouse, you are sure to find the right new or used desk and chair for your home and office.